Halo 3 ODST has finally been released, and, as promised, I'm now going to do a comparison of the Horde mode in Gears of War 2 and the Firefight mode in ODST. Also, I should apologise if my voice sounds a bit weird, because I seem to have picked up a cold and I've got a sore throat. Obviously, I should mention that this is all based off of my opinion, and none of this is fact, so all obnoxious fanboys, please get the fuck out. With all of that out of the way, let's get started with my comparison of Gears of War's Horde mode and Halo 3 ODST's Firefight mode. We'll start by starting with the maps. Both Gears 2 and ODST ship with 10 maps. The main difference between the two is that you can play Horde on any multiplayer map, but with ODST, you're restricted to the maps that were made specifically for Firefight on the disc. This isn't necessarily a problem. Both games ship with the same number of maps. What about downloadable content? If you're willing to spend the money, you can increase the number of Horde maps from 10 to 29. What's more, I think that some of the Horde maps have some interesting gameplay mechanics, such as the sandstorm on Nowhere or the lasers on Security. Normally I would say that ODST offers more variety with its maps, arguing that ODST maps let you get in a vehicle to kill onslaughts of Covenant, but really it doesn't. There's only one map in ODST that caters to those who like large-scale vehicle battles. It kind of feels like Bungie just glanced over the vehicle combat of the game, which is a shame because the vehicle combat is one of Halo's greatest strengths. This is hindered further by the fact that ODST doesn't really come with 10 maps. Really, it just comes with 8, plus 2 nighttime variations of the same map. You've got Crater Day and Crater Night, Rally Point Day and Rally Point Night. Personally, I don't consider different lighting effects to be different maps. The worst part is that Bungie doesn't have any plans for downloadable content for ODST, meaning that the chances of seeing some new Firefight maps are slim. Gears of War wins as far as maps are concerned. There's a large quantity of them available, and some of them have some interesting gameplay mechanics, which is something I feel Firefight is missing. But good maps don't mean anything if the enemies aren't fun to fight, so let's take a look at who's more interesting to fight, the Covenant or the Locust Horde. Both the Locust and the Covenant are full of a variety of different species. The Covenant have grunts, jackals, brutes and hunters, while the Locust Horde has drones, the various variations of boomers, and everybody's favourite, the Cantus. Both groups are fun to fight, but in the later stages of Horde, the Locusts get kind of boring. The main reason for this is that, to up the difficulty, Horde increases the amount of health that the Locusts have. The result is that the Locusts just end up turning into bullet sponges, which results in the only real strategy available to the player to pump them full of lead until they fall over, which doesn't make for very exciting gameplay. Firefight counters this with the inclusion of skulls. After every round of Firefight, a new set of skulls will turn on, which alter the way that the game plays. For example, the Catch Skull makes enemies throw grenades more often, and the Tough Luck Skull makes them avoid danger more often. The skulls increase the difficulty of the game, but it never really feels like it's done in a cheap way, as opposed to Horde. This, plus some of the comical dialogue that grunts often come up with, makes the Covenant much more interesting to fight than the Locust. Point goes to Firefight. But what about the weapons that you have at your disposal? Both games have some interesting weapons to use, so let's see which games have the best weapons for poning 10 nubs. Both Halo and Gears of War have iconic weapons in their respective games. Halo has the assault rifle, the pistol, the sniper rifle, and some could argue that the Spartan laser is pretty iconic to the series as well since its introduction in Halo 3. The most interesting weapons in Gears of War are probably the Lancer and the Torque Bow. You've also got the sniper rifle and the boom shot, and let's be honest, there's nothing in the world that's more satisfying than chainsawing a Cantus. It's simply the most epic of all wins. This is a tough call to make, since I like the weapons in the different series a lot, and it's hard to decide which is better. Ultimately I think I'm going to have to go with the weapons in Halo though. The reason for this is that they seem to be more practical for the job. but the weapons in Gears of War seem to focus on creating as much gore as possible. That's not necessarily a bad thing, but I think that, in terms of getting the job done, the weapons in Halo reign supreme. The next category may seem like an odd one, but what about connection issues? You could create the best game in the world, but if it lags, then it's not going to be fun. Horde mode in Gears of War very rarely lags. The connection is generally pretty solid no matter who I play with. On the other hand, we've got ODST, which, let's be honest, is far from perfect. If you have a good internet connection and you're playing with people in your own country, you should be fine. But problems start to occur when you're playing with people overseas. Take this gameplay footage as an example. It may look lag-free, but in reality my movements are delayed by about a second or so, which can really mess you up when you're trying to get out of the way of a grenade. If there were ever a game that needed dedicated servers, this is it. To make things worse, ODST doesn't have a matchmaking feature. This means that you can only play with people on your friends list. If nobody on your friends list has ODST, or if nobody is online at the time that you are, then Firefight immediately loses its appeal. Gears of War wins in this regard by a mile. It really lags, and the matchmaking option means that you can find players whenever you want to. But what about the sound? How do the different weapons sound? How do the explosions sound? Great sound can make the experience that much better. I'm just going to come out and say it. Gears of War, hands down, has superior sound to anything in Halo. The Lancer, the Mulcher, the explosions, they all sound like deadly weapons to be used. Let's take an example. Let's compare the machine gun turret in Halo to the Mulcher in Gears of War.
Double kill. Double kill. Overkill.
Not to discredit some of the sound effects in Halo, but Gears of War wins by a mile in this regard. What about user-created content? Both games take a dabble in this, so let's take a peek. Halo 3 has a dedicated theatre mode which allows you to watch a replay of any game that you've played. Recent games are automatically saved in a temporary list, although you can choose whether or not you want to save them permanently. In these replays you can break the camera and move it wherever you want to. You can pause the replay and then take a screenshot if you want to, although disappointingly there's still no rewind function, so if you miss a moment you're going to have to sit through the entire film again. In ODST you can also upload a saved film to your file share for others to download and look at. Although you'll need a capture card or a Bungie Pro subscription to get these on your computer, this added functionality is still welcome. This is more than what can be said for Gears 2. In Gears 2 you can take screenshots, yes, but you can only take them if you're dead in the game. What does this mean? If you get an epic moment in Gears 2, then you can't take a screenshot of it, because you're, well, dead at the only opportunity the game provides to let you take screenshots. You can break the camera out as well, but it's kind of awkward to use in comparison to the one in ODST. For example, there are some stupid restrictions of where you can and can't move the camera to. The screenshot feature in Gears 2 simply isn't as good as it is in ODST. Unfortunately, we've nearly hit the 10-minute time limit that YouTube has, so we're going to have to split this up into two parts, so click on the button on the screen to go to part 2.